Hi, I'm Sabine, the Purpose Lawyer. Thank you for listening. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast. It really goes a long way. It helps us spread the good word. And if you or anybody you know is in the market for legacy or estate planning or business or trademarks, please reach out to our firm. It's the Ambitious Legacy Firm. We are licensed in New York and New Jersey, but we have service partners in all states. So we'd love to work with you. Asset protection, legacy planning, trademarks. We got you. All right. So it's the ambitiouslegacyfirm.com. Now let's get into the episode. Welcome to another episode of the Ambitious Legacy Podcast. I'm your host, Sabine, the Purpose Lawyer. Thank you for listening and thank you for helping me be on purpose. Oh, guys, today, I pride myself on being a great attorney. I love when clients tell me I'm easy to talk to. I help them through their problems. My team is wonderful. That's just to pat myself on the back. But really, I wanted to talk to you today about some bad attorneys because they're not all good. I don't want to say we're not all good. They're not all good because I'm not associating with them. But I wanted to highlight this for you because, there are some things that you want to look out for when you are dealing with attorneys. And there are some red flags that appear in these scenarios that I'm going to talk to you about that really should stand out to you as, okay, I need to run from the hills or I need to, pivot and try this another way. Okay, so the first story is this young lady called me, really emotional because her parents, her father had recently died and she needed some, sort of guidance. So the scenario is her parents had gotten a divorce. They each had their own attorneys. The mother actually, initiated the divorce, but it could have been something that was super simple, right? There's different types of divorces. There's ones that are super, where you're at odds, you go to court, you have attorneys, and it's very hostile. There's other types of divorces where if you guys are in agreement, you can sign a paper really to sum it up and file that and boom, you have your divorce, right? So this could have been that situation, but the attorneys made it super long and drawn out. And beyond that, they didn't give them, a heads up about what it will cost. So the mother's attorney pretty much was very aggressive with her and told her that if you don't drain your, retirement accounts and your saving accounts to pay me what you owe me, then I'm going to sue you. And so the mother, not knowing, she did that. She paid her attorney and is now left flat broke with no retirement. The father, now, his attorney tried to do the same thing. And it turns out the attorneys knew each other. So the father now, when the attorney was like, you need to drain your retirement, he's like, no, I'm not doing that. This is for my children. I'm not going to do that. And so he decided to sue the father. Although the father said, hey, I'd pay you, I'll pay you in monthly installments. It's not that I don't want to pay you. I just don't have $48,000. I didn't expect this. And so he ended up being sued. Unfortunately, the father passed away and now the daughter is dealing with this. And so it was something that totally did not have to happen. It did not have to happen like this at all. And now it cost this family their inheritance because now their dad has a lawsuit. We don't know what it's going to cost them or what it's going to end up being. Mom is left dead broke, so she has nothing to leave. And so there's this scenario, and did not have to be that way. Attorneys are not allowed to morally treat you that way, either as a human or legally, and ethically. The next story is, I don't even want to say, I don't know which one is worse, but the next story is about a family. Their loved one passed away in New York. They're trying to deal with the estate, but they live in another estate. So they get a referral somehow. They end up with this attorney. They hired the attorney to settle the estate. So they had a lot of real estate, high valued real estate. One piece of property was located across the street from Central Park in New York City. You could just Google that and there's nothing less than $1 million. Probably a couple of $1 million. There's nothing less than that. One, the attorney sold the property, which they didn't want it sold. So that's already a violation. Second, he told them he only got, say $500,000 for the property in Manhattan. Even if it was a shell, it would never be that cheap. Not only that, they haven't seen a dime and it's been at least 3 years, right? So, part of the issue with that one is everything I just told you, but also the attorney's not communicating with them, not letting them know, what is the problem? What is happening? This is something that should never happen. Attorneys are not allowed to do things, against their client's wishes. We always have to go back to the client and say, hey, is this okay that we take this step, or is this okay that we do this thing? So these are really, really big red flags. And, I wanted to give you like at least 3 tips on some things that you should know about working with attorneys. One would be that you need to feel comfortable with the person. Right? You shouldn't have a situation where you are totally like uncomfortable and can't really, communicate. 2 is communication. The attorney should definitely speak to you and make it clear on what's happening, and you should be able to have an open line of communication. And 3 is education. Like, you need to understand the process. You need to understand what's happening and all the details around that. You're entitled to that. And so this subject matter really kind of goes into what I'm going to talk to about with my guest today, Miss Rosetta Upshaw. She is a thoughtful and conscientious attorney who helps individuals and the community at large find good attorneys, right? These are the type of people who you want to be with. So I brought her here today so we could have this conversation and you can kind of get a vibe and understand of what a good attorney really is. Stay tuned for this interview. Hello, Rosetta. I'm like,
Hi.
hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing really good.
Thank you so much for being here all the way from Cali. Don't I feel special? You should feel special too.
Yeah, so happy to be here.
Awesome. So Rosetta and I met through EYL, through working together on the Legal Club, and we just like fangirled each other.
Yes.
Really
I was like, we look alike. We're twins. Rosetta, Sabine.
Yes, we're
Sounds
both
nice
lawyers. Awesome. So I'm so glad you got to come. So for the audience who doesn't know you, just tell them a little bit about like who you are and like how you got to where you are, a little bit about your journey.
Okay, happy to do so. My name is Rosetta Upshaw. I am an award-winning attorney. I am from Northern California. I'm from the Bay. I live in Los Angeles. I have clients all over the world. Awesome. I've been practicing law for over 10 years. My practice is primarily business law. I handle contracts. I handle negotiations. I have a lot of entertainment clients. So there's a lot of overlap with entertainment. And I also help my clients with trademarks, copyright, just everything that comes up with business. And then also wealth planning and trusts.
Cool.
So I'm basically outside general counsel for some entrepreneurs and businesses that are doing very well. So
awesome.
I actually just started my law firm 6 months ago.
Oh, wow. 6 months ago. Wow.
Yes.
But you've been practicing for all this time.
Yes. And I wish I would have done it sooner.
Really?
I wish I would have done it sooner.
That's
like
interesting.
Yeah. It is so much fun. I love the freedom.
Okay.
I love being able to pick and choose my clients.
Yes.
And really just, focus on what I want to do any given day, any given week.
That's good.
Right?
That's
say
good.
yes, say no, have the flexibility. This is where it's at.
That's
I'm
awesome.
like, how come nobody told me that this was so much better?
I love that you said that because I was always thinking like maybe I should have like worked longer at a firm or something like that, But
you did it exactly right.
Hey, who knew? But that's good. I'm sure you did though, like have a lot of great experices, growing as an attorney.
Yeah, I loved it.
So what did you do primarily? Like what were your practice areas when you were working for
I
the firm?
started off doing trademarks.
Okay.
Very, very first client right out of law school was a young entrepreneur that I was helping with his intellectual property.
Okay, cool.
Since then, it's been primarily litigation.
Okay.
So just in court, Monday through Friday.
Wheeling and dealing.
Yes. And it's so funny because I really love putting witnesses on the stand and cross-examining them.
That's
so
fun.
I was recently, talking to some students about that and like how much fun it is.
Yeah.
I've made a couple people cry.
As you should.
Right. Like, it was appropriate in the circumstance.
Right.
But really getting to the truth of the matter.
Right.
And having someone come on the stand and that they're prepared to, kind of
Answer in a
circumvent
certain way.
the truth and slowly getting like the real facts out of them.
Right.
Like, I'm good at this.
That's good. That's awesome. Kudos to you. I know it's a challenging thing to be doing litigation. So, But it does come with its rewards, right?
It's performative, so
Yeah.
it's got that aspect. I'm a musician. I went to music school as a kid. I played
Oh.
bass.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
so that was my first career, really.
Okay.
My first profession was music, and then I transitioned into law, and I'm still a little overlap. I still do a couple of musical things.
That's awesome. So what made you want to become an attorney, like, after doing music?
I always wanted to be an attorney ever since I was a kid. So I started music really young.
Okay.
So, I was touring as a kid, like taking off from school in elementary school,
Oh, wow.
in middle school and high school. So music was basically like age 9 to maybe, I don't know, 25.
Okay.
Probably when I slowed down.
Okay.
And then when I was in college, I worked at some legal clinics.
Okay.
And same thing, like, I was good at it. I was like, oh, okay, I think this is a good fit.
Right.
But yeah, I always had law school in the back of my mind. So once I tried it and I felt like I was good at it and I liked it, I was like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and pursue this. Yeah.
So we kind of have a little something else in common, because I went to law school at 24 versus like right after college. So you went a little bit later?
No, I went right after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's just me then.
No, but again, I think you did it right.
Okay.
When I talk to students and they ask that question, should I go right after? Should I take some time? I'm always like, if you feel compelled to take some time, do it.
Then do it, yeah.
I think the people, my friends who came to law school as adults and had some experience,
it was a lot easier, right?
Yeah, they did such a great job. They were more focused. They knew themselves. They knew what they wanted. They were able to like maximize the time in law school.
Okay.
Where the rest of us were like, I don't quite know what I want to do. Let me try some of this. Let me try some of that. But when you know what you want to do and you come in and you execute in law school, you're a winner. Right?
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And so I love that you have so many different things that you sort of, initiatives that you're proud of and that you are involved in. I know you were in LA, you Black Women Attorneys.
Yes,
you were the president of that organization.
So Black Women Lawyers Association of Los Angeles Incorporated.
Okay.
It's so much fun. Oh my gosh. It's a huge community of attorneys. We just learn and grow together. We have a lot of social events, a lot of fundraisers. We give scholarships. And so I was president 2019, 2020.
Okay.
So COVID hit in the middle of my year.
Wow.
And so, first time for everyone.
Right.
It was very intense. So we went from having, a ton of in-person social events to everything being online. And I was, proud that we transitioned pretty quickly.
Right.
And because we were so used to being together, like people bring their kids to our events.
Oh,
like
wow.
everybody really, really knows each other.
Like a family.
Exactly. It's a really, really close-knit family. The whole Black lawyer community in Los Angeles is very, very close-knit.
Okay.
So I wanted to make sure we were having Zoom events as often as possible. So we were having events at least twice a week.
Wow, girl, you put all that together?
Yes,
oh
it
my
was
goodness.
a lot.
I'm
and
sure.
Girl, I've been on Zoom since. I was like, I am
Like, I'm
zoomed
done.
out. I'm done. You can barely get me on Zoom these days because I was hitting it hard. So one of the things we did was bedtime stories. So we twice a week we do reading to kids, and so again because we're so used to seeing each other's families,
Right.
And so I would have the different lawyers and judges like reading their favorite stories.
Oh,
and
that's
I found
beautiful.
out about some really good books. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to read that. There are some really cool kids books out there.
Do share with me, not right now, but you can share with me. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, and then hearing, really like how people read to their kids because they would have their kids and then we'd be on Zoom with everybody else's kids.
Wow, that's
and
cute.
it was just so intimate and so sweet, like seeing people read to their kids and like turning the page. Like, wait, I didn't see that one. Can you?
Yeah.
Put it on the camera? It was really nice. So we had a lot of very, very special Zoom events. We actually got Zoom bombed.
Oh, really?
Unfortunately, we got Zoom bombed.
And this is like people just coming in acting a fool.
And it was during one of the kids sessions too.
Oh, wow.
And unfortunately, it sounded like young girls. It sounded like young girls.
Yeah, that's a new thing that we kind of have to think about for this new thing, I guess, transition that we're getting into with like being online, more.
They
and
were
more.
saying the N-word.
Wow.
They sounded like they were about 10 years old.
Really?
And they were saying the N-word. They hopped into our Zoom.
Yeah.
We were like, all right, let's up our security.
Yeah, exactly. So that brings me to something, because when you said there's such a huge community of Black women attorneys in Los Angeles, I was kind of surprised because some reason I hear about that Los Angeles is it not that diverse, or is it?
Oh, it's very diverse.
Very diverse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so funny because, I think as Black people, we often take the lead in building those spaces.
Okay.
So now that, the Black Lawyers Association has this legacy, now everybody got an association. And it's so much fun. So,
well, that's cool.
There's Chinese, there's Filipino, there's this, there's that.
Yeah.
And so we all come together, we collaborate.
Cool.
So it's really nice to see, the diversity, everybody, we're all lawyers, but we all have our different culture, our different realities, and just being able to share and connect.
And bring that together. That's awesome. We do have that here as well, which is kind of cool. The different associations from different cultures. So that's awesome. And it's good for young people or young women who want to become attorneys to sort of like get involved in those associations early, right?
Yeah, that's one of my most common pieces of advice because, again, I moved from the Bay to LA, and it is very different. People often, don't really understand that.
Okay.
Like the Bay Area and Los Angeles are like two separate countries sometimes.
Really?
we all like avocado and tacos, so we have different things in common. But the differences are really intense.
Okay.
And so, even though I was only, 5 hours from home, like a 5-hour drive, it was like a whole new world.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the Black lawyer community really took me in.
Okay,
and that was like my first home away from home.
Okay.
And so, all my jobs, no interview. Oh, you with us.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Like that type of support.
That's beautiful.
Just feeling like anytime I have a question, and I still do, I pick up the phone.
Like,
hey, what's going on with this? What do I do with that? They answer my phone calls. And, it's an honor because these are some impressive people.
Women. That's awesome. And having a network is so important. As a, starting my firm and like being solo, I kind of like sit in the shadows for a while without connecting to people, and it is like night and day. Like when you're just alone and going at it alone, it's a very different experience. And having that community is so uplifting, so positive, so encouraging. Does a lot for your confidence.
Right.
So that's awesome that you tapped into that.
Yes.
So now tell me a little bit about Legends at Law, because you're like, it sounds like it might have been birthed from you having that community.
Oh, for sure.
And so you're like pioneering, creating space for lawyers to like, share.
Yes. I love it so much. So it started during the pandemic.
Okay.
Right? So I noticed that a lot of legal clinics shut down because one of the things we do together in the Black lawyer community is we volunteer together.
Okay.
And so some of my mentors had me volunteering at legal clinics very consistently, just again, so it's social, it's, service work. So it was so much fun. And when the clinic shut down, I was like, oh my goodness, because I've never seen an empty legal clinic.
Yeah,
right?
it's always somebody needing help.
So for anybody who doesn't know, a legal clinic is a space where attorneys go and they meet with the public for free. So for people who can't afford an attorney or they're not sure where to find one, they'll be in a church or a community center or a university, some public space where everybody can just come. And there's typically a line around the block of all sorts of people with all sorts of questions. So it was also like really good practice because you don't know what's coming through the door.
Right.
It might be family law, divorce. It might be a consumer dispute. It might be a contract dispute, real estate. It could be any area of law.
Wow.
And so we'd be like, all right, who wants to take this? Just in the back room figuring things out, looking up the law, right? So when everything shut down for COVID, I was just like, there are still people who need help. So I took it virtual. So on Instagram Live, I created Legends at Law, and I had all my friends, judges, attorneys, coming on live and answering questions.
That's dope.
So to create a virtual legal clinic. And then I realized like, oh, we got a nice little community. Let's keep doing this, and we can, charge people and take clients as a group.
Right.
So that's what we do now. So when I have people reach out to me, I'm like, yes, I will get you connected with someone in the Legends community.
Right.
So many legends around the world.
Right.
And it's been working out great. And I just love seeing people connect with an attorney that fits them.
Yes.
Right? It's so important to have a good relationship with your attorney. And, I believe in abundance. I'm not selfish. You go with them. Like, I want to give people options.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful because, you know, a lot of times people do have that limiting mindset, that what do you call it, lack mindset. And so having that abundance mindset has brought you so much abundance in just like helping others and creating this platform. So, but you bring me to something that I wanted to sort of like talk about. So I've had several phone calls with people who have been have had bad experiences with attorneys, like extremely bad experiences. Not just like, okay, this attorney didn't call me back. It's just like terrible. So one story, well, I kind of talked about this in the intro that you didn't get to hear, but one story is about this young lady called me, you know, very distressed. Her family, her parents got into a divorce. And for something that could have been quick and simple, you know, like we call it uncontested divorce. That means you fill out the paperwork, you guys agree, and you, right? They both got these attorneys who apparently knew each other, but they didn't know at the time. And the attorneys basically ran up the bill, right? Ran up the bill, was very aggressive with them and caused them to basically drain their life savings. For the mom, the father ended up dying with this lawsuit against him for legal bills. So I'm thinking that people don't understand like what it means to have a good attorney or what kind of relationship that you should have with a lawyer, because why would you allow that sort of thing to happen to you, right? Because just you don't know, right? Isn't it?
Exactly. There's definitely a lack of exposure. And that's also something I wanted to tackle with Legends. Put a friendly face to the law.
Right.
You know, because again, it's about being comfortable. And most people are comfortable with someone who looks like them, someone who speaks like them, comes from their same culture. You have some commonality that builds comfort, right? And that builds some trust because it's just a familiarity. So for me, I always want people to be exposed to lawyers so you can see the difference between good and bad. If you've never met one before, if you've never spoken to one, if you've never heard one speak, that's why, you know, this podcast is so important.
Yes, thank
you. Like,
you.
let people see what it's like to speak to an attorney and how it should feel.
And how it should feel,
like, you're so easy to talk to. You're so warm and inviting.
Right.
I think people have this idea, you know, it's a very, you know, limited idea of what an attorney is, what a lawyer is, what a judge is, what a legal professional is. And it's dry. It's a suit, right? It's typically a man, right? And it's probably a white man.
Correct.
And probably an older white man.
Right.
So we are young Black women. And
the
we're fresh.
opposite of the spectrum.
Right?
Opposite of the spectrum.
So being able to just open people's eyes and see, like, you can have this vibe and still have legal excellence.
Exactly,
People don't often, you know, connect
Think
those
about
dots.
that. Yeah, and so one of the things is that I think people don't know is that you can essentially fire an attorney if you don't want to work with that attorney, right? If you're not feeling respected and helped, you don't have to like stay in that relationship. It's like a service like any other service, right?
Exactly, exactly. And being able to speak up and understand that as the client, it's really supposed to be about you, right?
Yeah.
And people think that, you know, the more stiff and stern a lawyer is, the better they're going to be.
Right.
That's not necessarily true.
Not necessarily true.
Right.
Or the older and whiter they are, the better they are. And that's
Definitely
not necessarily true.
Oh my goodness, right? We have seen some things.
We see something.
But it's so important to be comfortable, right? It's so important to feel good energy, feel like you can communicate. Communication is the most important thing. Trust is so important.
Yes.
And taking your time. So one thing that I recommend that people do is ask for references.
Oh, that's a great one. Yeah.
Ask for references. Because you may think like, oh, well, of course they're just going to send me people that like them, right? But references exist for a reason. So just like when you apply for a job and they ask for references, they know the same thing.
Right.
You're supposed to find people that like you to say nice things about you. But you'd be surprised how many people...
They don't have anybody to say nice things about.
They don't have anybody, and maybe even the person they thought they had be like, let me tell you what's really going on.
Right.
I have heard so many stories about that, and I've been on the other side of the table hiring, calling references, and be like, oh, really?
Yeah, they're like
this is not as friendly as you
I expected,
right?
So you might just hear a little something.
You might just hear a little something. So asking attorneys for references, and again, like you said, it's about people not being aware, people having limited exposure.
Right.
Because, of course, we don't want you to have legal problems where you have to, hire an attorney. But there's also, wealth building and positive reasons to hire an attorney.
Yes.
You're growing your business. You need to hire employees. You need agreements. You need a trust.
Yeah.
Right? So when people haven't hired an attorney before, they don't know these things. So I'm so glad that we're having this conversation.
Yeah,
because it's so important. And you can ask an attorney, you can ask anybody, but especially when you're in this position where you need to trust someone because, they can take your money, they can take your time.
Right.
It can be a huge disaster if you don't have the right attorney.
Yeah.
Ask for references.
I think that's a great point. You kind of hit the nail on the head with that one. The other thing that I was thinking about is if I've heard people say they were either afraid to ask questions or that the attorney was annoyed by them asking questions, and so that they shied away from that. Yeah. That's a red flag. Yeah. An attorney, because there's this trust relationship, like you pointed to, they should be able to educate you on the issue, on what they're doing for you, on perhaps some options. It shouldn't be this is what you're gonna do and this is how we're gonna do it. Because it's a collaboration in a sense.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Oh, for sure. And again, it's supposed to be about the client. You have to feel comfortable with what's going on, and you need to know what's going on. So if an attorney is annoyed with you asking questions, I feel like that's a communication issue.
Yep.
Maybe that communication style is not a good fit. And then maybe not a good fit. And then maybe, they don't really have the time to dedicate to you as a client.
Correct.
The time that they should, right? So if just asking questions, if you always feel rushed, pay attention. Because typically, unfortunately, a lot of times when people are hiring an attorney, there's some stress involved, right? Typically, something's gone wrong. Yeah. They're like, I need a lawyer, right? Unfortunately, even though we also do positive things.
Yes.
And that's also one of the reasons why I started Legends, because as a litigator, please believe there's a problem.
Yes,
we're
you've
going
seen
to court
a lot of things.
for an issue, right? And I was just like, every single case, there were little things that the clients could have done that would have avoided court altogether, or at least had a much smoother process. So I was like, let me try to get on the front end. Let me start speaking out, giving people some of these tips so that they don't end up in these situations where they need a litigator.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Being proactive about either your situation, getting educated ahead of time, and being proactive so you're not rushed to have to pick somebody or hire somebody or jump in the situation because, it's dire. When you take your time and sort of you could evaluate the attorneys, you can get second opinions, see who you want to work with, and then kind of go from there so you can get ahead of it.
Yes, so important.
Yeah, 100%. And then I was thinking about, how clients should feel empowered by that relationship, because now you feel like somebody's on your side, somebody's working for you or working with you, and not that you're I'm grateful for whatever they give me. That's
exactly, for sure. Yeah. And I love giving my clients options. And that's a good point you made, because that definitely is a sign of trust.
Yes.
And a sign of abundance mindset, not scarcity.
Yes.
So, for example, one of my client friends pointed out, because I don't aspire to be the most affordable attorney. I'm going to say that out of the gate, right?
Right.
So,
as you shouldn't.
Thankfully, I have so many clients that are doing really well, and the numbers make sense.
Yeah.
But when I speak to clients, but I love speaking to everybody, when I speak to clients and they're like, oh, your price is a little high. I don't know if I can afford that. I'm like, here's your other options. I can help you do it yourself. I can, send you my course is typically with trademarks.
Yeah, okay.
I can send you my course and show you how to do it.
Yeah.
And I talk to them and I'll give them some tips oh, have you started the application? Don't forget this part. If you have questions, call me back. I'm perfectly happy to help people and give them options so they don't feel like this is the only way. You have to pay me. You have to hire me.
Right.
If it doesn't work with me, here's other attorneys, here's other options. I want the client to feel comfortable and feel happy and have a just like a good journey through whatever the
and
situation
that's how it
is.
should be, because I mean, we're in this position because we're supposed to be helping people, right? So we should be in that mindset that we want you to do well, you know. And I do the same thing, like especially when I do planning, I give people different options because I'm like, yeah, you could go for this is going to give you the most protection, but you can start here, you know, or you can put some things in place now and then build towards it. It's not like hit it or quit it. You know what I'm saying? And like, you know, and that's important. Like, because I don't think there's really any area of the law that there's only one way to achieve a solution, right? It's going to depend on circumstances, but there's typically going to be options, you know, of what you can do to sort of get protected. So I think that's interesting. I'm thinking if there's anything else, like professionalism, maybe, you know, like.
I definitely would say ask questions.
Okay.
And like you said, if they're annoyed at the questions, well, then, you know, that's a sign right there. But asking about references, asking about options, you know, asking about the process. Because especially if you're going into something you've never been in this situation before, they should be explaining to you like the timeline, you know, the different components of whatever the case is. So, you know, we're going to have mediation first. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And if they don't ask those questions and having them, you know, have those conversations and provide those answers or not, like, oh, don't worry about that.
Like what?
Like, I asked this question because I'm worried.
Right.
Typically.
Yeah. Or why shouldn't I worry about it? You know, maybe dig a little deeper.
Discuss it further. So yeah, I would say ask as many questions as possible, and how they respond, I think, will show a lot about professionalism.
Right. That's true. Yeah. So that kind of what you stated to me sounds like having expectations set right from the outset. Like you should know exactly what about you're gonna pay. If it's not a flat fee, like what can you estimate? And if it could be more, they should be telling you like, this is how much we think it is, but it could be as much as this, right? You know, so that should have been an expectation. Like in the story that I said, like they should have told those clients, like, listen, it could cost you $60,000, whatever it is, to do this divorce, and let them decide, do I want to go down the journey?
Right.
You know, do I want to like just make it easier on myself? You know, so that's definitely something. Setting the expectations, making sure that you're clear on what's next, and you know what's the journey to come.
Yeah, it's important, and I want people to be comfortable with their attorney. Like you should be vibing like we're vibing right now.
Yes.
You should feel good about your attorney, and you should have that trust. You know, because I always try to reassure my clients. You know, granted, stressful situations. But I don't want my client to be overly stressed and overly worried. I want them to trust me. You know, I want them to feel like they have help now. You know, I can't promise anything. I can't guarantee anything, but I know that I'm capable, you know, of interceding on behalf of the client. So I want people to like be able to breathe. Take a deep breath. If you're not like,
I've had people say that like, oh, now I'm relieved. And that's how you should feel. You know, that's how you should feel when you're working with an attorney. Like, oh, now I'm relieved that I have somebody on, you know, on my side. Not that situations are not stressful, right? But you want to feel supported.
Exactly.
You know? 100%.
And I know your clients feel that way. I know they're just like, hey, I just called to say hi because you're so nice.
Yes, a lot of them do. No, that's cool. That's cool. And I love this area, you know, like helping people plan their legacies and really sort of get into what they want to see for those that come, you know, behind them and all that good stuff. So it just feels like it's a real feel-good area, you know, as far as in my opinion. When I was a younger attorney, I was just like, who wants to deal with people dying, you know?
Right.
But now I look at it as sort of like, you know, planning for life and how you're impacting lives, you know?
Yes, it is so heartwarming. So recently, one of my clients, I was moved to tears because in her trust, she wanted to leave a message to her unborn grandchildren.
Oh, that is beautiful.
So, like, as I'm, like, typing it out, I was, like, tearing up, like, oh, my gosh. Like, I'm a part of something really special, something really important. Like, these humans are not in existence yet, and they're going to read this, you know, from their grandmother, from their great-grandmother. And I helped.
Yeah.
I was there.
You helped make an impact on somebody who just like who wouldn't have otherwise had that experience. Because also a lot of attorneys are not into that. They're just not into that part of it. So tell me about, what's next for you, and what is legacy to you, and how do you want to sort of leave a legacy?
So much going on. I don't know how much I can talk about, but more things in the entertainment space.
Awesome.
More things in the entertainment space. So, I'm getting used to these lights.
Okay, girlfriend.
So that's really exciting. I need to hire more.
Okay.
Like, things are going great. Like, it's only been 6 months.
Awesome.
And I'm like, I need some help. So expanding my law firm is
in the works.
imminent. Yeah, like I need to have some interviews. And as far as legacy, like I touched on in the very beginning, I am just so amazed at how wonderful it is to be my own boss. Have my own law firm. Right. It feels so good. And while I went to USC for law school. I went to Berkeley for undergrad. I've been a part of so many amazing organizations and communities and felt so supported. Yet nobody pulled me aside and really said, you should be an entrepreneur. You should start a business. You should start your own law firm. Maybe a couple little hints here and there,
but not like, no, girl.
But not like, yes. Like, I'm shaking people. Like, you really need to consider this. And I think I'm going to fill that gap. Okay. Because, I feel like my friends are in the same boat. We're starting to start our own law firms and looking at the people who had their own law firms, like, why you didn't tell me? This was so good. So I am starting a support group for solo lawyers.
I love that.
To build a community, to encourage people to step out on their own, right? Start their own practice, collaborate, be a part of Legends, and understand that even if you have your own firm, you're not alone. We can share resources as much as possible, share best practices, what we're using, what's working, maybe even like share assistants and admin staff and things like that. Yeah. So building that community, I'm really, really excited about, because again, I'm only 6 months in. I still need it. I'm building it for myself, and y'all can come. So really helping more attorneys feel empowered to start their own law firm. I'm just like, come on over here. Me and Sabine, we're having a lot of fun. You should give it a try. And it's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody.
But I think 100%. It's for more people than think it is.
Realize. Yeah.
For sure. So that's super exciting to me. And then finally,
well, before you move on, I just want to say, commend you on doing that, because that is definitely something that's needed, not only for solos, but particularly for Black women, for, Black attorneys, period. Yeah. The sharing of resources and having that community of like, I need help. How do I get over this hump? How do I, navigate this thing,
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So entrepreneurship is not easy, and you have to learn how to be an entrepreneur and an attorney and, all the things. So
thank you.
That's definitely a legacy.
Thank you. Yes, I think so. And it'll be very, very special. And then I love motivational speaking. So I speak for law students a lot. I speak for, college students. I speak to a lot of students. Okay. And I really, really love it. It's probably my answer, to the classic question of what you would do
if you weren't doing this.
Right. If money was no object and you didn't need money, you didn't need to get paid, I would be speaking. I love, sparking something in young people and expanding their horizons, helping them realize, that there is no limit. The sky is not the limit. Me and my younger brother, who's a pilot, we have a clothing line called Afro Aviator.
Oh, cool.
It's based on his journey as a young Black pilot. And one of our main shirts is "The sky is not the limit." So I love reminding people that they don't have to be stuck in a box. I feel like, especially as lawyers, it's like, are you going to do litigation? Or are you going to do transactional? Are you going to do big firm, corporate, or are you going to do public service? Like, there's all these boxes that you're, navigating through and just trying to get the highest grades, trying to get the highest paid job. And I think more people need to be aware of, like, what is success to you? What actually feels good? What would actually make you happy?
Yeah, that is very, very good for people to, focus on that as their measure and their guide to get them to where they want to go, rather than, the boxes, what society wants, what your family wants, or whatever, what feels good to you and what sort of makes you want to get up every day and help people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So awesome. That's my legacy. Hope you like it.
Oh, I love it. Rosetta, thank you so much for being here. This was an awesome conversation. I think we're going to help a lot of people figure out how to navigate this legal thing.
I hope so.
Yeah. So where can people find you if they want to tap in or if they want to stay connected with you?
Yeah. So Legends at Law everywhere. So legendsatlaw.com, at Legends at Law on Instagram, and then also my name at Rosetta Upshaw is my personal page.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. So much fun.
Yep.